Hi everyone. We are still looking at graphs and transformations of cubic graphs. And this is the last problem we are solving under this topic. We shall move on to the next stage. That is to quartic graphs. These are graphs with 3 turning points. And we shall be looking at graphs with 4 turning points. It has the highest power here is 3. So when you try to sketch these types of graphs, you get 3 turning points. So we are given a problem here. It reads f of x. It reads, let me take out this so that it doesn't confuse you. Given that f of x is equals x squared, x minus 10 into x squared minus 2x plus 12, express f of x in the form x into ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, c are real constants, they are real numbers. B, hence factorize f of x completely. And C, sketch the graph of f of x. So let's start with the A part of the problem. You are asked to express f of x in this form. So this function here, f of x, equals x minus 10 into x squared minus 2x plus 12x. They want you to express it in this format. They want it to look like, they want you to bring it like x into ax squared plus bx plus c. And you find the values of a, b, and c, a, b, and c. So we need to solve this one and bring it in this format. So what do? We first need to expand these brackets and then we factorize. Once we do that, we'll be able to put it in this form. So now let's expand this. We are multiplying out. So x times x squared, you get x cubed, x times 2x, x times minus 2x, so you're having minus 2x squared, x squared, so the minus 2. And then you have minus 10 times x squared, you're getting minus 10x squared. And you're having minus 10 times minus 2x, so you're having minus, you're having plus 20x, so you're having plus 20x. And finally, you have your plus 12x here, plus 12x. So now let's collect like terms. So you have only 1x cubed, and you have minus 2x squared minus 10x squared. That will give us minus 12x squared. And you have 20x squared plus 12x squared. Sorry, 20x plus 12x. This will give us plus 32x. But they want you to put it in this format. So we need to factorize x out. So this is going to be x into x squared plus 12x. We are taking x out here at the bracket, so this will now reduce to 12x. And this will reduce to 32. The x now is outside here. So now we've brought it into this form. And they ask us to find a, b, and c. So from here, what is a? Your a is 1. There is 1 here. No, it's not written. So a is 1. And what is b? Your b is 12. And what is c? C is 32. So the a part is solved. A1, B12, C32. A part is solved. Let me do this for space. We now need the B part. The B part says, hence factorize completely. So now need to factorize this equation. We have the equation here, x into x squared plus 12x plus 32. This is equal to f of x. This is a quadratic equation, and you already know how to factorize quadratic equations. You solve a lot of problems on quadratic equations. When you have a quadratic equation like this, there is an x here, so leave it as it is. Just concentrate on this one here to factorize. You have plus 12x and 32. So you now need the factors of 32. You now need two numbers which are factors of 32. And those two numbers, when you multiply them together, you get 32. And those same two numbers, when you add them up, you get 12. So what are they? What two numbers you add, you get 12. But when you multiply them together, you get 32. It's 4 and 8. 4 plus 8 is 12. And 4 times 8 is 32. So it means here you have x into x plus 4 and x plus 8. Your x is still here, and this is equal to f of x. So those are your factors. You've now factorized completely, hence factorized completely. So the B side is finished. Now the C side, sketch the graph. This is a quadratic equation here. We've done so many problems, so I just did it quickly. Now, we now come to the main topic we have today, which is sketching graphs of cubic forms. So in order to sketch this graph, we are now looking at this equation. This equation here. F of x, we now is f of x, but we know f of x is y. Y is now equals to x into x plus 4 into x plus 8. What we had before, I just, instead of f of x, I put now y. And we want to sketch this equation. It's a graph. So you have to find where the graph crosses the x-axis. So graph crosses the x-axis at y equals 0. Yeah? That is why the graph crosses the x-axis. When y is 0, then the graph crosses the x-axis at that position. So if you now put everything here, x into x plus 4 into x plus 8, all equal to 0, this implies that x equal to 0, x plus 4 equal to 0, x plus 8 equal to 0. So that means x is equal to 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and x plus 8 equals 0. So it means this one here doesn't change. X is equal to 0, and this one here implies x equals to minus 4, and this one, x plus 8 equals to 0, implies x equals minus 8. So if you now want to write them in a coordinate form, you will have um, 0, 0, 0, minus 4, 0, minus 8, 0. It simply means x is 0 here, y is 0. X is minus 4, y is 0. X is minus 8, y is 0. Because it crosses the x-axis at y equal to 0. That's what this implies. So you got that one. Now you now need where the graph crosses the y-axis. Graph crosses y-axis at x equals 0. Yeah? So you now come to your graph again and see. You put wherever you see x, you put 0. That is why it crosses the y-axis. So you have your function here. If you put x 0 here, so everything here will be 0. Because what you are going to do now, you are now going to say y is equals to 0 multiplied by 0 plus 4 multiplied by 0 plus 8. And you're having here 0 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 8. 0 multiplied by any number is 0. So everything is 0. So graph crosses y-axis at 0, 0. Yeah? So what follows next? We now need to investigate the behavior of this graph as x approaches in plus or minus infinity. How does the graph behave with the y-axis? That's what we need to investigate next. Then we'll be able to plot the graph correctly. But to do that, you come back to the equation. You have this equation here. Y equals x into x plus 4 into x plus 8. So if x approaches infinity plus infinity, I need to erase here for now. Later I will erase this. As x approaches infinity, x becomes very large. X approaches plus infinity. What happens to y? If this becomes really large, this is large, we multiplying very large numbers, everything positive, so y also approaches infinity, plus infinity. Y will approach plus infinity as well. That is case 1. Case 2, if x now approaches minus infinity, what will happen to y? If x becomes really small, we're multiplying very small numbers, we have plus 4. Y will also approach minus infinity. So once you have this information, it is now very easy for you to be able to sketch this graph. So let's try and sketch it here. This is your y-axis and this is your x-axis. We have up to 8 minus 8. Minus 8. You have negative numbers. It's all negative numbers. So our graph, negative numbers. Yes. Why not? Have we missed something? This should be minus somewhere. x sorry about that. We'll have minus here. Should be minus, I think, somewhere. So let's expand this again and see. X times f of x, x times, we get x cubed, x times minus 2x squared, minus 10 times this, minus 10x squared, and then you have your plus 12. No. Minus 10 times this, minus 20 x squared, you have your plus 12 x. Don't like this, man. X times x squared, x cubed. X times x squared is x cubed. X times minus 2x, you get minus 2x squared. Minus 10 times x squared, you get minus 10x squared. Minus 10 times 2x, you get plus 20x, and then you get plus 12x. So this will give you x cubed minus 12x plus 32x. So they ask you to take what? 1x, then be x squared minus 12x plus 32. Yeah, this is where the problem is. So I should have minus 12 here. This should be minus, sorry, should not have been plus. Should be minus. The minus here. So now everything here, we need to check it out again. We need to check this out. Yeah. So we are back here. We have x into x squared plus 12x plus 32 is equal to f of x. So we have, if you factorize this one, this is minus. Which two numbers, which when you add them together you get minus 12, but when you multiply them together you get plus 32. So it's going to be minus 4 minus 8. So you have here x into x minus 4 and x minus 8. And this is equals to f of x, which is your y. Because if you multiply these two, you get minus 32. But when you add them up, you get minus 12. I used the sign before, corrected it now. Yeah? So now the graph crosses y-axis at x-axis at y equal to 0. That is x equal to 0 here, and x minus 4 equals to 0, and x minus 8 equals to 0. So this implies x is equal to 0 here. This implies x equals minus 4. This implies x equals minus 8. X plus 4, x plus 8. So if you want to write them in the coordinate form, it's going to be 0, 0, then 4, 0, then 8, 0. That is where the graph crosses the x-axis. Now the graph crosses the y-axis at again It doesn't change anyway, but let me just connect it. Cross the y-axis at x equals to 0. So that is, if you have y equals, this is now going to be 0. You have 0 minus 4 and 0 minus 8. So this is going to be 0 multiplied by minus 4 multiplied by minus 8. This is going to be all 0. So we got it now. Yeah? Now we got it. So we now investigate the behavior of this function as it approaches to infinity. So, if as x approaches plus infinity, we are looking at this function here. As x approaches to infinity, what will happen to y? If x really becomes large, y will become large as well. That is still correct. If x becomes small, very approaches minus infinity, y will also approach minus infinity. So that is it still holds true. This condition is still hold. So now let's plot our graph. This video is long now. We have our y-axis and our x-axis here, and we'll go up to plus 8. So if we see 2, 4, 6, 8, we don't have anything minus. But let's just see here minus 2, and here let's see minus 2, and this is minus 2 as well. So we know the graph crosses the x-axis at 0, 0, that is at the origin here, and 4, 0, and here, and 8, 0, and here. That's why the graph crosses the x-axis, and it crosses the y-axis at the point 0 again, at the origin here. So how do we go about now plotting the graph? We have to look at that infinity section. We know when x approaches plus infinity, that if x approaches greater values of the positive x-axis, y will also approaches greater value of the positive y-axis. So we know this graph will go this way, x positive, y positive. And also, we are told when x approaches negative values, y will also approach negative values. So when the graph crosses here, we know this graph will also go like this. So what do we have? Now we join the graph. You know, the graph behaves like this way. That is the graph. Once you are able to identify this infinity thing, you just need to join your other points smoothly and do a smooth curve. So that is what you have done. I hope you enjoyed this class. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.